I've been doing research all morning on this insane GameStop surge. I mean, the stock price has gone from about $10 to over $350 in 2 months. So there's bound to be some massive winners here. And we're not just talking about people on Reddit who've made $10,000, $20,000. I mean, there's even other people, several of them, who've made over $1 million on GameStop. And there's one guy, DFV, on Reddit who is up, who turned just over $50,000 into, as of right now, about $46 million. But there's other people in the game who aren't on Reddit, aren't on social media, who are the true winners of this GameStop surge. So I really wanted to dive in as to who the biggest shareholders are in GameStop, whether they be individuals or institutions, and how much they are up on this insane investment. And just so you know, none of this video should be construed as investment advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. So let's jump into the list in case you're wondering what I'm looking at. This is a computer down here. Anyways, let's start off with the biggest Reddit winner. This is Deep Effing Value, DFV for short. You can see he is up over $40 million from that $50,000 investment. But like I said, there are some winners who are way beyond this. So moving on to the next person, the CEO of GameStop. He's only been the CEO for a short period of time. He was appointed this role, as you can see, in April 2019, but he owns a ton of shares in the business. He's been pretty low-key about this entire surge. I don't think there's been a single article or interview or comment from him on this massive surge, which is, it's kind of interesting. You'd think someone who owns millions of shares and his company is blowing up would have, something to say about it. So I put together this spreadsheet that's going to help us see how extreme of a swing these people are making in their massive investments. So we can see GameStop CEO George Sherman, he holds 2.3 million shares and bought in. This is an estimate because I really don't know the time frame in which he bought these in. This was just the share price when he became CEO. So we can give this a little bit of range, but to be honest, the bought in price doesn't matter that much with how big of a swing. Like if we change this price, it really doesn't change how much in total increase he receives because the percentage increase is so insane. And then the current price as of the last close is $325. So his total buy-in value at the bought-in estimated price is about $20 million. I'm sure he received some of those through bonuses and other compensation, but we're just saying buy-in $20,700,000. Current value, $747 million, an increase of $726 million on his stocks in the company that he is the CEO of. I mean, this guy has had the best month ever, but he's in a tricky situation because as the CEO, you don't really want to just sell the shares of your company because that's not a good sign if the CEO doesn't have faith in the company. It shows like he's thinking the stock price is too high, which, I mean, it's not a realistic stock price. So he's in this tricky situation where if he sells, he's going to have to report that he sold. But that doesn't look great for the company. But I'm sure he wants to sell because he wants to cash in on some of that $700 million. And then what he could do is sell now and then buy back later when it's lower. That'd be the smartest thing to do, but it might be kind of a PR issue. And then next on the list, we have Must Asset Management. Let's just take a look at their page here. Oh, this one kind of made me laugh. This is their website. It's so insanely simple. And it just made me think, you know what? When you see an extremely simple website, it means one of two things. Either it's a tiny business who doesn't really know anything about making websites, or they are insanely wealthy, because it reminded me of Berkshire Hathaway's website. And here is Berkshire Hathaway's website. I mean, this is one of the biggest companies in the world, and this is their homepage. You got to kind of love it. I mean, message from Warren Buffett, get your car insurance now down here. It's kind of hilarious. But this stockholder, Must Asset Management, actually sold off its stake on Wednesday. And this is the only person on the list that I could tell that they actually sold off their stake so far. But I wanted to include them just because they made a killing off of this investment. So let's go to my spreadsheet here. Must Asset Management. You can see shares held 3.3 million, bought in estimate. They bought in March 18th, 2020 was the last time that they disclosed that they had ownership in this. So I'm just going off the price at the time of disclosure. And then they sold at around $340, which was a good time to sell because Wednesday was the highest we've seen so far. Total buy-in value of $16,500,000. Total current value of $1.1 billion, an increase of 1.1 billion. I mean, basically, you can see the buy-in versus increase is so negligible. Basically profited, you know, 1.122 billion minus 1.1105 billion. It's like a rounding error at that point. But their clients have got to be happy if they were in a fund that had some of these GameStop shares invested in it. Now, moving on to the next one, we have, another individual. I like the individual ones because you can really kind of, attribute to a person and that person's actual net worth. This guy is Donald A. Foss. He owns 3.5 million shares, 5% of all of GameStop. And his last disclosure date was February 2nd, 2020. So let's go over just to a quick piece of information on him. So we can see Michigan billionaire Donald Foss. He started some kind of credit company for people with bad credit. Basically, you pay an extremely high interest rate because you have bad credit. He took that company public and then stepped down, I think, in 2017. But he made an absolute killing on his 5.3% stake in GameStop. We don't know if he has sold or not, but he might still be in there. Anyways, let's look at his stake here. We can see 3.5 million shares held, bought in, estimate around $4, current price $3.25, total value buy-in 14 million, total current value $1.137 billion, over a $1.1 billion increase. So his net worth shot up. I mean, he was in the low tier of billionaires before this, and now he's a multi-billionaire. I think he's worth like $3 billion now. So I'm sure he's probably someone who will sell a significant portion of this because he's not like an employee of the company like the CEO is. Next on the list, we have Sunvest Management. They owned 3.6 million shares. Last disclosure date was October of 2020. That's 5.2% of the entire company. And let's go over to them real quick. This is a Canadian asset managed company. I've seen a lot of people in Canada have been making a killing off of this because the brokerage apps in Canada, the Canada specific ones, haven't blocked trading of shares. So Canadians have been able to get in on these, and this is just a coincidence that this is an investment firm from there, but it just made me think of that. So $650 million payday, and this is actually a little bit delayed because it is not as of the last closing date. So if we go over to my spreadsheet here, you can see they're the 7th largest shareholder, 3.6 million shares, bought in, estimate around $12. And total buy-in value, 43 million. Total current value, over $1 billion, a $1.1 billion increase. I mean, you can see we're at number 7 right now, 7, and all of these are up over $1 billion. It's just insanity. Next on the list, we have number 6, Dimensional Fund Advisors. They own 3.9 million shares. So there wasn't a whole lot of information on them. I think these are the people who actually sold a bunch of their shares. So we can see they at one point owned 7.1 million shares and they sold off some. And more recently, it is down to 3.9 million. I mean, they're still doing pretty crazy numbers. So let's look at them on the spreadsheet. 3.9 million shares bought in around 10-20. Total value of buy-in, almost $40 million. Total current value, $1.267 billion, an increase of $1.227 billion. But they had at one point, what was it exactly again? They had 7.1 million shares. So let's just see. If they hadn't sold those, they would have a $2.2 billion increase. So they got to be kicking themselves just a little bit for selling off their shares, but at the same time, you can't complain. $1 billion profit. You can't complain with that, but it could have been $2 billion. There's always a higher number. All right, next on the list, number 5, we have Skadden Hannan International Group, another fund. Let's pull up them. There wasn't a whole lot of information on them either, but 4.444 million shares. Latest disclosed value, 45 million. Obviously, that is not up to date. There's not a whole bunch of information on the fund, so let's just look at the spreadsheet here. You can see shares held, 4.4 million, bought in, estimate around 10-20. Value buy-in, 44 mil. Total current value, $1.4 billion, an increase of almost $1.4 billion. Another multi-billion, I mean, to put in perspective how much money they made in the last 2 months is just insanity. You can bet all of these people are going to not only benefit from the increase in this price, but all the people who are going to flock to their investment firms because they were the people who hit the lottery on GameStop. So the net benefit is even more than this massive increase that they're seeing. It's really insane. All right, number 4 on the list, the 4th biggest holder is Vanguard Group, which they're probably the 4th biggest holder of everything. So we can see Wild Surge adds more than $1.3 billion to Vanguard funds. That's a little bit outdated. Basically, they're a huge holder because they have like 40 funds that held GameStop in it. So, you know, they have a portion of GameStop in all of these different funds that individual buyers have bought into. And they were one of the biggest beneficiaries of this. So let's look here. Vanguard Group, 5.3 million shares. That comes out to 7.6% of the whole company. Estimated buy-in, 1020. That might not be totally accurate because I'm sure they've bought in over a variety of a huge span of years. But again, the buy-in price doesn't really change that much. Total buy-in value, 54 million. Total current value, $1.7 billion, an increase of almost $1.7 billion, $1.668 billion. But let me just show you the bought-in price. Like if I change this to, we'll increase by 50%, change this to a $15 buy-in, you can see it does like nothing. You know, it changed this by what, $30 million? So instead of 1.6 whatever, 8 billion, they're making 1.64 billion. The buy-in price really doesn't matter when they're all that low. All right, number 3 on the list is, I think they're the biggest asset management holder in the world. So again, they probably hold a lot of everything. Let's see here. Yeah, BlackRock may have raked in $2.4 billion on GameStop's retail-driven crazy frenzy. BlackRock, they're massive. They own everything, it seems like. So let's go down to them. Number 3 on the list, they hold 8.6 million shares, which is 12.3% of the whole company. Same estimate, 10.2, but that could vary a little bit. Total buy-in value, 87 mil. Total current value, almost $2.8 billion. An increase of $2.7 billion in 2 months. It's gone up that much. I mean, let's see here. If we go, that's a lot of zeros. Divide that by 60 days. $45 million a day in profit for the last 2 months. That is insanity. Okay, number 2. Oh, this one is really exciting. This is another individual, so this is really cool. It says Ryan Cohen. He owns 9 million shares of GameStop. So let me pull up his tab here real quick. He is the guy who was a co-founder of Chewy and made $3.5 billion on a sale of Chewy. I mean, basically everything this guy touches turns into $3 billion, it seems like. He's 35 years old and made pretty significant investments into GameStop last year, and it's just kind of added to his investments since then. Let's see here. You can see many analysis consider it stores out, this is GameStop, it stores outdated as comparing it to Blockbuster, and you can see he kind of is making fun of that comparison. And now who's really laughing is this guy who is the 2nd largest shareholder, counting institutions, of GameStop. So you can see the shares initially shrunk during the pandemic, but they have since done pretty darn good, and this guy is doing pretty well, especially considering that GameStop is considered his side business. This is his side business that earned him $3 billion. Okay, let's see the exact numbers here. Ryan Cohen, shares held 9 million, which is 12.9% of the company. Bought in, this is actually accurate, 4.83. I was able to get his actual average buy-in. Total value of buy-in, $75 million. Not that much considering that he was worth like $3 billion before this. Total current value, $2.9 billion, an increase of $2.849 billion for one guy. So, I mean, DFV is crazy. You know, he's gone 50,000 to 54 million, but we're talking billions. I mean, if the 54 million that DFV made is basically a rounding error on this. It's just insane this is the real, like, this guy is the real story. All right, last one, the biggest shareholder, which is Fidelity Investments. Not the most exciting one, but we'll cover this real quick. I couldn't even find an article about how they hold GameStop shares, but everyone knows who Fidelity is. And taking a look at them on the spreadsheet, 9.5 million shares bought in, estimate 1020, that could vary. Total value buy-in, 96 million. Total current value, $3,087 million, an increase of just shy of 3 billion as of current market close. So as you can see, this is just an insane story that's still getting more and more insane. I mean, we could see a situation where next week these numbers literally double or triple or cut by 90%. We really don't know for sure right now. It's all a matter of whether people hold the stock or not and get that stock squeeze to really shoot the price up. And yeah, I just thought this was extremely interesting. As I was going through all this information this morning, I was just wowed by the bigger and bigger number. I mean, multiple institutions and people making well over $1 billion in profit in a very short period of time. It's amazing. So that's going to do it for today. I would like to thank you for watching, and I hope you have a profitable day.